All right, let's get right into it. So we're going to have some little groovy music to get us started off with, right? Here we go. And the show is about to begin. What do you need to know? So basically, the Social Security Administration has the ability to access bank accounts specifically for SSI people. And they came out with a rule, an emergency rule, that said, hey, it's a new rule. We're going to go ahead for the people over 65, get rid of the original rule where, if it was claimed that they had less than 400, we weren't really going to check as often. Now they're saying we're removing that rule. We're just going to check. And so what happened is people got a little worried because it makes sense that they would be like, oh crap, how are they going to get access to my account? And what they have is this program. It's called Access to Financial Institutions Systems, which is AFI system. And what it does is it basically electronically verifies balances and things like that. Now, at the end of the day, different programs, right, restrict the SSA with how far back they can go. And so what I want to do with this video is explain to you essentially how far back they can go into your bank accounts to go ahead and look for stuff. Now, I don't want to make this a giant video. I want to get right to the point on it. So we're first going to focus on SSI. SSI basically is a program where it is means tested. That means you got to be poor to be on it. But the bottom line is that usually they can go back a total of 3 years. And when they look at your accounts, they're usually looking at, the past month all the way to essentially 3 years for anything that might be suspicious and or problematic. But remember, that's if they're trying to access your accounts, like your bank accounts. If, for example, they already have a bunch of accounting on their end, they can go all the way back. And so remember, their machine, their entire system, how they pay you is its own banking system that basically accounts for what you've received and when you received it. So if they want to go even farther back than that, they absolutely will. Now, with that said, banks don't hold records forever. However, there is a little side note here, which is essentially whether or not the SSA for any of these programs, Social Security Disability Insurance, Supplemental Security Income, Retirement, Disabled Adult Child Benefits, or perhaps spousal benefits, ex-spousal benefits, widow's benefits, there is a gotcha clause. And the gotcha clause is that they can go back as far as they want, whatever the bank has, whatever is available, so long as there's the potential of fraud there. Let me read this to you. It's from 143, fraud in connection with benefit claims and earnings records. Now, when I read this to you, I want you to keep in mind how difficult is it to meet the standard, the definition of SSA's version of fraud. Okay, so remember that. We're looking at how hard is it essentially to go ahead and meet one of these standards, okay? Or at least trigger it to begin the process to look into it. Here we go. You may be prosecuted as a criminal for fraud if you knowingly, okay, so you knew, furnish false information as to your identity in connection with the establishment and maintenance of Social Security records. For the purpose of increasing your payment under Social Security or any other federally funded program, or for the purpose of obtaining such payment, use a Social Security number obtained on the basis of false information or falsely represent a number to be your Social Security number. Make or cause, this is number 3, make or cause to be made a false statement or misrepresentation of a material fact for use in determining your rights to Social Security or SSI benefits. That's the one that usually a lot of disability people get snarked on, because they'll say they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this. The SSA investigates them, takes a video of them, and all of a sudden, they were making false misrepresentations as to their severity, aka a material fact, when determining their rights to Social Security benefits. Number 4, make or cause to be made any false statements or representations as to whether wages were paid to you, the period during which wages were paid, or the amount of your wages. Or, that's when you have a side gig and don't tell them, whether you have net earnings from self-employment, the amount of your earnings, or the period during which you earn the money. You got a side gig, you got more earnings than you really let out, or you didn't tell them about the side gig where you're working your own thing. Really quick, there was a massive donation here from Jennifer Johnson. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer says, thanks for all you do. I was able to file and win my disability claim. That is amazing. I'm super happy for you. I always love when this channel goes ahead and helps people basically get their benefits, keep their benefits, or just know what the weird little statutes are that aren't really out there. Because at the end of the day, if you just kind of like know where the bumper lines are, you know what I mean? Like you kind of swerve to them, but then you can get away from them. You don't hit the statute that's going to nibble on you. So this was amazing, Jennifer Johnson. I'm super happy to see that. That is absolutely incredible. That is massive and amazing, and I really, really appreciate it. So congratulations. Let me know if there's a particular video topic you would like me to cover. When they do big donations, I super like to look into doing specific topics for people. Also, Princess Diana with the $2 donation, been with us for a really, really long time. A heart there as well. Walter, you're looking handsome. That haircut, thank you, thank you. I had a haircut in Maine. And so I was walking into a barber shop, and I was like, you know, because when you get a guy to do your hair in a barber shop, they're just like, they just shave everything off. They're like, get out of here, you're done. But I walked in, it was a female. She was rocking it. She was like, you know, moving. She was just super fast, but she was doing like salon quality. So I was very impressed. I was very impressed. I was, you know, because normally you go into like an old school, and this was an old school barbershop, man. They're just like zip, 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 gone. It's like military style. All right. With that said, let's keep rocking and rolling. Okay, so conceal or fail to report. So this is section E. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Conceal or fail to report any event affecting the initial or continued right to payment received or be received by you personally or on behalf of another. Okay, that's like that's a overall gotcha. Okay, let me read it to you again. The important part here: conceal or fail to report. When they say fail to report, legally, what do we call it is an omission. An omission is basically where you just don't tell them something you're legally required to tell them. But most people don't even know what they're supposed to tell the SSA. So very, very quick and easy standard for somebody to screw up. And then they have the full right to go ahead and go all the way back as far as they need to into your bank account records, so long as the bank has them. They only keep records for so long. Okay, conceal or fail to report any event affecting the initial or continued right to payment received or to be received by you personally or on behalf of another. Section 5, use payment received on behalf of another for any purpose other than the use for the benefit of that person. So let's say that basically you're like a payee, and instead of spending the money on the disabled person, you go ahead and spend it at Disney Park, right? Or Disney World or Disneyland or whatever, okay? Other penal provisions contained in the Social Security Act or in the Federal Criminal Code may also apply to offenses affecting the Social Security program. We will prosecute even if a fraudulent act is discovered before wrongful payments are made by the government. Okay, so now if you knowingly or you omit something or, you basically, wiggle, it's a little white lie something. Now, I'll say this. There's this thing going on where people, when they interact with the government or interact with their doctors or interact with, therapists, physicians, whoever, it doesn't matter. But apparently there's this new thing that's becoming like accepted in society. I just want to let you know, if you go ahead and, do a little redirecting, a little deflecting with your statements, okay? When you're like, I'm just deflecting a little bit. I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't want them to know what's going on. I'm just deflecting. That is a lie. In the law, that is a knowing actual lie. So like just when, and I don't know why it's become like a cool thing or why people do it or what the deal is, but if you try to basically tell one of your physicians one thing and then tell another thing, or tell a teacher one thing and then tell your physician another thing, that's the AC unit. That's not deflecting. In law, that means you're being disingenuous, or more appropriately put, that means you're a liar. So you have to be aware that the culture of how people approach things nowadays doesn't only line up with, it doesn't, you got to remember, in law, a lie is a lie. You know what I mean? There's no like cutesy, remember when it's just a white lie, maybe it wasn't a material fact. Okay, fine. But if it was material to you receiving benefits, like affecting a judge's ability to validate that you are a truthful person giving testimony to your doctors about your symptoms, then that's kind of a big deal, right? That's kind of a big deal. All right, so now bottom line, if fraud is involved with any aspect of your retirement benefits, disability benefits, supplemental security income benefits, whatever, any social security program, if fraud is involved, they can go all the way back and look at all of your records, which, to be fair, will usually mean you'll owe the U.S. Treasury, right, some money, and then, like, a fraud situation, right? In that case, you owe the worst creditor to owe money to. That is the creditor that the IRS also uses. So at the end of the day, just to be very clear, you don't want to owe the U.S. Treasury. That's like the worst creditor to owe. All right. Now, because they have all these special rules where they can snooker money out of you that other people can't use, but the U.S. Treasury has got a lot of options. All right. So here's the deal. When it comes to SSDI benefits, there's another code. Instead of it just being 3 years going back, they use 42 U.S. code, section 405. Specifically in this code, they go all the way over to, okay, here's, all right, so here we go. C1B, the term time limitation. So basically your time machine that they can use to go backwards in time and look at your bank records, right? The term time limitation means a period of 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days. Again, 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days. So if you're an SSDI, or if you're wondering how far back they're usually going to look, it is 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days. How do they come to that calculation? Poorly. They could just make it 3 years. Just make it 3 years. You know what I mean? All right, next thing. When it comes to overpayments, and I'm getting a lot of calls for overpayments, and we actually have some new data, and I can't tell you who it came from because I can't. It's just I can't do that. I have some new data that shows that the Trump administration, when it comes to initial filings, is very aggressive with doing denials. In fact, the numbers don't make sense based off of historical data. Now, am I trying to say something mean about Trump? Yeah, a little bit, because it appears that the culture of denying people is increasing, which may mean that the unspoken version of denial lists, quota lists, that even though the SSA claims they never existed, don't look over here, it looks like, based on the new numbers, that the numbers are not looking good for approvals at initial filing. And, the bottom line is this. Nobody's completely blind to the reality that if you deny people up front, deny them again, there's a certain percentage of people that are just going to give up. Okay, so let's cover what we've covered. SSI people, usually up to 3 years, they can look back into your bank accounts. SSDI people, usually 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days. Okay, overpayments, generally around 3 years, although frankly, I've seen them back 25 years at this point, which is, them looking back and using AI to use the math they already have access to of what they paid you when they paid you. And then fraud cases are essentially unlimited. Rep payees, if there's a rep payee situation, it's as far back as that person was a rep payee, where they can look into that person's bank account to see how they were handling the money over to the claimant. Okay, so bottom line is this. Should you ever be a rep payee? You know what I mean? A little bit tricky situation there. Now, with all this considered, okay, and I want to make this video very, very short, the main focal thing that I want you to focus on is you've got basically two categories, okay? Category one, the unlimited, the fraud, some of the overpayments, but usually they're held to 3 years, but some of them, as long as they have the information already stored inside their system. And then, of course, the payee for as long as they've been a payee. So you really got to watch out for those, because those can really bite you. Otherwise, 3 years SSI, 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days SSDI benefits means that every year something you might have done wrong, you've got to clear around 3 years for it to potentially not be part of the review, unless it was a knowingly, intentional mistake. In that case, you're screwed. They can just go into your bank account and look as far back as they want. Why is this important to keep in mind? Okay, so think about it. Let's think about a person, a hypothetical individual here. Okay, let's say the person goes ahead and basically gets found disabled, right? First 3 years, they don't know what the rules are. They don't know what they're doing. They're not comfortable, but, they're just doing things as they think it should be done. Okay, then you get to the next 3 years. We're talking about year 4, 5, and 6, right? A little bit of confidence. They've read some pamphlets. They've got a better idea how to spend the money, what to use the money with. All right, good. Okay. Now, where I usually see issues pop up is not the first 3 years. It is not year 4, 5, and 6, although it's going to change a little because post Biden, the dollar is not worth much. And a lot of people who are disabled are getting benefits, where they're going and pushing to get some sort of side gig, side job, part-time gig, right? Now, here's the deal, okay? Where I usually see the problems arise, it's not the first 3 years. It's not the second 3 years, 4, 5, and 6. It is 7, 8, 9. That's where I see claimants start to get a little bit, let's just say they got some ego to them. They got a little crust to them. They're like, let's figure this out. What can I do to get some more money? Now, here's why. A couple of reasons. Number one, when a person has been on benefits that long, when they've reached year 7, right? They've already figured out what their life is going to be on a monthly basis. They got it. But they've also realized that the cost of living adjustment is not keeping up. And every year they have less to spend because things are more expensive. So they're pissed. The claimants by year 7 realize this sucks. And so what then happens is around 7, 8, 9, right? Year 7, 8, 9 of this whole thing, they start to say, well, how am I going to get some extra money? And that's where it begins to happen. It's the how am I going to get some extra money thought that pushes them into getting a little side job. And sometimes they start small. Sometimes a little cash here, sometimes a little cash there, sometimes a little cash here, little cash there. Sometimes they go on payroll, little cash here, a little cash there, but they keep it under SGA, and they usually keep it under the trigger amount for the 9-month trial work period. Now we get to year 10, 11, 12. Now we're seeing full swing. There's planned systems where they're earning money under the table. They have a network of people that they can make payments from, right? At this point, we start getting into the fraud situation. Because, at that point, they've got enough evidence. They know that the person's doing something on the side. They're making enough money to, basically get a car that was recently advertised for a certain amount on a website, and now all of a sudden it's in the ownership of that person. A lot of you guys don't think about that either. A lot of you don't have the ability of understanding the menu of how a criminal's brain actually works. Okay. And in order to go ahead and catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. Obviously, let's walk through it. Let me give you an example. Hypothetical person gets disability benefits. Okay. They start working a side gig, a little bit here, a little bit there, maybe a little under the table, maybe a little over the table. Year 8. Okay. Because they realize they don't have enough money. Makes sense. Let's just call it like it is. We have not had a great economy over the past 4 years. Okay. Even Trump's first year, he's kicking water, right? He hasn't gotten it down. He hasn't gotten clamped down. All these magical, amazing, I'm going to go ahead and save the earth. Every dolphin will have a new squeaker. All the nations that are warring right now will throw me a party personally and build me a wall. It didn't materialize yet. Now, is he doing amazing work when it comes to renegotiating contracts with foreign countries for international trade? Yes. Is he doing the right stuff with that? Yes. Have we noticed the goodness of it yet? A little bit here and there, but he's got some big ticket item people to still hit. He's got Russia to hit, which that's going to be fun. China to hit, even more fun, although that one's coming together. Places like India, there's always a little bit of wiggle waggle on that stuff. You know what I mean? But the bottom line is he's coming to the end of the negotiations of what he can do for international relations. He's doing the right thing. But we don't feel good. As Americans, we're not too happy. You just saw Fed Reserve is going to go ahead and lower the interest rate. That allows people that can move and shake to borrow money, buy things, make more money. It's going in the right direction. All right. But the disabled person, the retired person, the SSI person, the widow's benefits person, the ex-spousal person, the whatever, the recipient of benefits is still not feeling the good vibes. So let's say that they're at year 10, right? They got the decade point. They're at year 10. Now they know how to make extra money by working side jobs and side gigs that make them feel good. They get it done. They get some extra money. They're happy. What happens? SSA sends out a form, CDR. Says, hey, how are your impairments doing? Hey, what's going on with you? Walk me through it. They fill it out. Oh, I'm dying. I'm terrible. I'm horrible. I'm worse than I've ever been. They have to freeze my body and unfreeze it every single morning. They have to, invent a new way to inspire me with a new potential pharmaceutical miracle, blah, 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 right? They lay the cheese on, okay? They lay it thick. SSA gets it and they go, okay, okay, okay. Now we got our form. Now we got the statements of the person. Then they send an investigator out. Investigator follows the person around. Person is working a little side gig here, little side gig there, little money here, little extra food there. Okay, cool. What do? They don't go in an interview and interview the people who basically are working there right up front. What they do is they look at all of the bank statements. They look at all the ownership, the titles. Now, let me explain to you how a criminal mind works and then how an investigator has to think like a criminal. One thing you guys may not realize is that, when you're playing chess, they're playing checkers. Places like the CIA, the FBI, they don't hire people who are like you. You're trusting as a person. You are honest as a person. You are generally trying to keep your life on the straight and narrow track as a person. That's not who they hire. The people they hire are those who can't be trusted because they're able to lie really well. The people that are able to use their intelligence with a high IQ and high level of anxiety to push themselves to the extreme. They hire superhumans that are ultimate misleaders. So much so that you wouldn't know when they're telling you a lie. That's what they want. That's what the CIA wants, because that is going to create a great type of spy individual that can grab information out of people. But let's go to these investigators. The investigators look up the car titles. Okay, all of a sudden you have a new title to a car. It's a used car, not a particularly nice car, but it's like a $10,000 car. All right. Well, you're only making through Social Security benefits, let's say $2,000. And your rent is $1,600. So if that's the deal, there's a problem because you're eking it a little too close. So then the question becomes, where's this little bit of extra cheddar coming from? Where's this little bit of extra meat coming from? And that's when they start to look at it. So they know you got a title on a vehicle. The vehicle costs about this much. They know you're too close, but you just need a little bit more cheddar. So they send an investigator out. Investigator follows you around, finds out that you're working at ABCD and also EFG, blah, blah, blah. And then at that point, yeehaw, they get footage of you working. Now, all of a sudden, they're wondering how you're getting paid, right? You getting cash? You getting Cash App? How you getting paid? You getting some Zelle? How you getting paid? So, all right, now the SSA starts to look through your PayPal, starting to look through your Cash App, starting to look through your Zelles. They're trying to figure out who, what, when, and where when it comes to this money that you're receiving. Because they know you got to pull in a couple extra $100 a month. You're not working much, but you didn't report it. And if you don't report it, let us go back to the statute, ladies and gentlemen. Definition of Social Security fraud. If you don't report it, here we go. Make or cause to be made a false statement or misrepresentation of a material fact for use in determining your rights to Social Security or SSI benefits, or conceal or fail to report any event affecting the initial or continued right to payment received or to be received by you personally or on behalf of another, or for the purpose of increasing your payment under Social Security or any other federal funded program, or for the purpose of obtaining such payment, use a Social Security number obtained on the basis of false information. That's your classic immigrant. That's your Biden immigrant. I don't want to say classic immigrant because that's not fair to them. I want to say like a Biden immigrant. Or falsely represent a number to be your Social Security number. Again, a Biden immigrant. Because to be fair, like that entire 4-year period was just like one long immigration cluster bleep. Like if we're honest with each other, so many wrongs were done against the American flag, country, land, people, citizens, veterans, humans. It's just like how do you, again, some of you love Biden, but I don't think it's for his policy. Unless you really don't know his policy, then maybe you do. Maybe you do. All right. So with that said, okay, just understanding this, now all of a sudden you got something nice. and they're investigating you because they're looking into it. What are the things that they look at? Well, they're going to look at photos of your house. So they drive around, and let's say that there's a car parked outside. Let's say that this car parked outside isn't in your name, but for the next month in which they go ahead and review and watch you and get video footage of you, you're using it. Well, then whose car is it? Okay. Is it, let's get some options on the board. Number one, a family member's car. Number two, the car of, titled to somebody you work for that basically is letting you use the car and maybe even own the car under the table. And then as a result of that, you go work for a certain amount. Maybe it's a friend or family that's visiting, right? So then the investigators start looking, they start digging, they start getting into it. They go, okay, who owns this car realistically? Who's using this car realistically? Who's putting the oil in and who's putting the fuel in, okay? And so after some review, they get to learn who, what, when, and where as to what you use. And what you use is what gets people in trouble. So when you have veterans who now have a new fishing boat, doesn't have to be new, it could be used. You get a title in it, and they're 100% P&T or TDIU, that's not going to look so great. And I know a lot of veterans that have boats, right? And some of them are older where they just can't use it, and they're like, they haven't sold it yet. They're going to sell it at some point, like the motorcycle thing. They haven't used it. They're going to sell it some. Fine. But some of you don't really realize that when you have ownership of one of these types of things that has a title that can be very quickly searched by the SSA, it brings up questions. It brings up questions. The RV group is something interesting. Some people have to run away, so they have to have an RV because they have to run from one place to the next place to the next place. That's just part of their mental impairments. Some people have an RV because they're going on majestic trips that I wish I could go on, but I never get to because I don't make enough money and I don't have enough staff personnel to do it because these claims don't pay enough. And in that situation, they're going to take a look. Now, some of you, just as an RV side note, what do RVs usually require that is different from a house? I just want to point this out real quick because I think it's important because I've seen them pop up in these ROIs. Okay. What do these RVs require? Well, usually they require maintenance. All right. So let's say you got a diesel RV. Right? What do you have to put into the diesel RV? And I want to see in the chat here. But first, before we go to that, please remember to hit the like button. So many of you never hit the like button. It makes me sad. It's just, look, I'll give you some buttons. Give me some like buttons. That's all I'm asking. I'll give you some crickets. I hit too many buttons there. All right. So here's the deal. Okay. I'm not getting enough likes here. So give me some likes. Give me some love. So the bottom line is this. Okay. If you're going to go ahead and fill, right? Now, it's not fuel. What is it? What are you putting into a newer diesel RV? What do you got to put into it? Come on, guys. Let's get a little brain power here. Let's see it from the chat. What do we got here? Come on, guys. What do we got here? Come on. Anybody with the blue DEF? Huh? Anybody? There you go. Ryan Dolan. Nailed it. Boom. Right there. Oh, wait. There was someone, Foxy Dog Itchy Paws. Very good. DEF. What do you got to do? You got to pop the hood. Lift this thing up. Let's see how much that weighs. Okay, let's see. All right. Let's see. Diesel, blue, DEF box. Right? It comes in a box. All right. So what does it weigh? All right. So when you lift that up to fill it, you are lifting 23 to 24 pounds up to that height and pouring it in. Okay, so what is the SSA investigator going to see you doing? You're taking a box, you're lifting it up, and you're pouring it in, and you're holding it, both gross and sometimes fine manipulative functioning features of your fingers to fill up the DEF inside your diesel. Cool. Yes, next one. Dion, Thor's Paralegal. You guys are nailing it. Propane tanks. All right? 20-pound tanks. 30-pound tanks. You take them out, right? They're empty. There they got you waddling them over, and don't think you don't waddle them. Everybody waddles a propane tank. That's how you do it. If you're not waddling it, you're not doing it right, okay? You got to really use the hips. So you're waddling over the propane tank. You're getting it ready. You're hooking it up, putting it up in the yada yada. Yeah, look at it. Now I got fridge power. Yay. All right. So now they got footage of that, right? All right, let me give you another one. What about jacking the RV up? Repetitive continuous motion, shoulder movement, back movement, laying on the ground, okay? Being able to use both hands at the same time, okay? Unless you have like one of those fancy ones where you push a button. Everybody hates those people. I just want to be like them. I want to be like them, but everybody hates them. You know it. So, all right, let's do another one. Let's do another one for the RVs, okay? What's another thing that gets RV people in trouble? All right, let's go. Hup. Come on, let's see what we got here. Come on. I see Rich is already trying to like get around. He's like, don't you know that you can buy it? Da, 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 da. Yeah, I know. But remember, that's not what everybody does. If you're using an RV, you're going to be somewhere on the side of the road going, oh, crap, I got to fill this thing with the DEF and get it yada, yada. All right. So what else we got? Roof? Yeah, there's always something that needs to be, have caulking up there, some screws put in, something's a little rattly, something's leaking. Sure. The ladder. There it is. Richard Carr. Very good sir. The ladder. They get you climbing up the side of that RV, one in front of the other. That shows. All right, what does that show? If you have to put an arm up and you have to climb, what does that show? You are lifting the weight of your body as your feet are pushing it up, which means that they can calculate how much effort you're pulling and pushing to get your body upwards, right? Talking about lifting with the left and right arm. Now they got that. Okay, I'm seeing some more stuff. Yeah, you got some vacuuming, sure. What are the tires? Princess Diana nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Flat tire. What do you got to do? Right? You got to go ahead, get the thing out, the watch, and you grab this thing and muscle it over. Some of you, have a Milwaukee or Ryobi, whatever. You got an impact wrench, right? But okay, they're watching you do that. And then you got to get the tire off. You got to roll the tire somewhere. Then you got to put the tire in the back of the car. You got to take that tire to a tire place. Now you put it into the back of a pickup truck. You're lifting the tire. All right, so how much does the average, let's see. How much does the average RV tire weigh? Okay, let's just get the weight on this thing. I don't think that's going to count the rim. Let's do with rim. RV tire with rim. That's fair. That's what you actually end up doing. 60 to over 100 pounds. 60. And remember, that's what the video is going to show. It's going to be a video shot of you scratching your butt, lifting the tire, making squeaky noises, and then putting it into the back of the car or the truck. That's exactly what the video is going to show. Okay? Yeah, it's not 35 pounds. I've lifted these things. I've lifted truck tires, all that jazz. It's over that. 60 to over 100 pounds. They might be smaller ones, 45 to 55 pounds, sure. But if you got an itty bitty RV, you got a baby RV, you got one of those like little tiny ones that looks like a van where they just punch some windows out and put an AC on top. Yeah, maybe then. Maybe those are cutesies. But, if we're talking like you're living in the thing, then it's a different gig. Okay. All right. With that said, very important. What is one other thing that we have missed? Come on now. What do you have to plug in? What do you got to plug in? You got a big old power cable. What does that show? All right. So let's see. What do you guys use? 50 foot, 100 foot, 75 foot. Let's see what average length of 30 amp RV cord. Let's see what that is. Then we'll figure out the calculation for the weight. It's definitely not 25 feet. I'd say 50 foot. All right, so 50 foot. All right, so average weight of a 50-foot RV 30 amp cord. All right, let's see if it's over 10. It's between 14 and 15 pounds. See what I mean? They got you lifting that, unrolling it, using your shoulders, using your back, doing all the hand movements, the wiggle. Okay, all right, they got you on that. Now, what about having to set up the hose to get all the flushings out of your RV, right? Okay, so you got to get that up to the thing. You got to do a bunch of stuff. You got to pull the lever. You got to do the spray thing. My point is, RVs can sometimes be a thing. Yeah, I thought RV cords were like 70, 75 foot, to be honest. I think I'm with Thor's Paralegal because to me, like, you'd have to have that just to have that. You got a 25-foot cord, you ain't plugging in many places. Like, you're only going to places that have a concrete pad set up for you. You know what I mean? All right. So, with that said, to be very, very fair with us, RVs can be a little tricky because what they do is they get a lot of footage of you doing different functions on them, and that can hurt you. All right. That's just something to kind of keep in mind. All right. Now, with that said, we've covered that. We've covered over the details of how far back they can look financially into what you're doing, how far back they can look into your bank. Remember, SSI people, for the most part, unbridled, unlimited capacity to look into your bank account. SSDI people, they have to use other methods. Okay. What are payroll companies doing? What are the national reports showing? Did you do any transactions over $10,000, right? How much have you put in versus how much have you likely spent on the things that they can capture on video? Another thing that I just want to point out real quick, guys, if you buy a really expensive lawnmower, and I don't mean like a push, I don't mean like a cutesy rider, I mean like a full-on Kubota BX maxed out series, and you didn't have a lot of money saved before, and you put down, what you had for whatever reason on a form, a gov form, that you only had this much in the bank or whatever. Remember, you have to have the capacity to make the monthly payment on that item. Let me explain. Let's say you make a certain amount. If you buy something real nice and new, then they're going to expect money down and monthly payment. But what's really going to throw them is if you don't have enough money coming in per month for money down or to make the payments. Because what does that mean? It means somewhere you had stashed money that they may have not known about. It means somehow you magically get more money per month. So, it's just one of those gigs, okay? And I want to point something out too. Remember, different things coming in different ways. If you're an SSDIer and you got investment income coming in, that's a different gig than regular income. Okay. But if you're an SSIer, anything that's coming in is going to hurt you. Anything. The whole point of SSI is impoverished, right? That's the whole gig there. It's the whole schmutz. Okay. So yeah. But Marcus, Major Surf, basically, you're right. The whole point of SSI is that you're poor and you remain poor. That's the whole gig of it. Because if you're not going to be poor going forward, then why? You know what I mean? That's the thing. And to be fair, they don't want to have to pay for SSI people because SSI people basically are being paid from general taxes. And the politicians that like to spend the most, I'm not saying which ones, but obviously they like to tax the most. Well, they would prefer that the SSI people not take from their money. Because remember, whatever we pay in is the piggy bank of the federal government to spend, or the state, or the county, or the whatever. Okay. So my point to you is just so you kind of like understand this thing and summarize again. Point of the video: 3 years back for SSI people, 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days for the SSDI people to look back into your bank accounts. For retired people, usually if there's some sort of problem, also 3 years, same thing for overpayments. However, if there is fraud, no limitations. They could go back to, basically the very, very beginning, 5 years before you were ever receiving benefits, all that stuff. And remember, they can also get a warrant to look back to people who you worked for that basically were paying you a little side thing under the table. Now, look, paying somebody is fine. You just got to report that you paid them. Receiving money is fine, so long as you report that you received it. But people don't want to do that because the taxes are horrendous. All right, one final thought, and this is important. I've had a bunch of those private session videos where I talk with people about overpayment issues, or what do they do with their benefits going down the line, or they're about to inherit something. What do they do? Social Security, disabled, Social Security, SSI, Social Security, retired, VA, TDIU, VA compensation. Most of those individuals do not understand how bad taxes are now. It's foreign to them. They go to sell something, they get taxed on it. They are like, they're blown. Their mind is just in too many places at once. One thing that you have to understand that a lot of Social Security recipients do not is that the tax rates are absolutely horrific. And so as a result of that, when you start doing some cash for this job and then you get on payroll and the payroll starts cutting in, man, the FICA taxes are eating it up. Fed taxes on top of that are eating it up. And all of a sudden you're like, what the hell? To just get a couple $100, I had to work a hell of a lot more. This doesn't make any sense. There's a reason why. The reason why is because our politicians have failed to properly invest the money to make America a very rich nation. Well, think about it. America makes, well, used to, more than anybody else. Used to. Now it's questionable. Okay. But let's just say, for argument's sake and fun, that it does. America, let's just say America for the moment makes the most money out of any country. Okay. Most profitable nation. All right. What's the problem with that? The most profitable nation on planet Earth is also the most in-debt nation on planet Earth. Now, who do you blame? Do you blame A, the people who worked and paid into the system and massively worked their butts off, so much so that the culture of an American is to work so that some days of a month you get to play, which is not, most nations aren't like that. Most nations are you basically play and then you work a little, right? That's the ideology. In America, it's you work, right? Now, y'all worked real hard. Y'all made a bunch of money. You paid way too much taxes. You go look at the tax rates of other places. Sure, there's some stupid countries in Europe, no doubt about it. But other places, you're paying taxes at absolutely mind-blowing, horrific rates. Okay, all right. But what does that mean? All right, so we look at this whole thing. We look at the situation. So do we blame the people who worked their entire life and now are facing a trust fund that's going to run out? No, we don't blame the boomers anymore because they don't know what the hell's going on anyways. They didn't know back then. They barely know now. Okay. All right. Number two, do we blame the politicians who spent all that money and gave all that money away to other countries through bad trade deals, through mass donations, through hush-hush money deals, through the wars? Well, yes, that would be it. Every politician that has been in office going back 20 to 30 years is probably in some way a criminal. They probably are. Because if we look at how they spent our money, I think realistically, if we read through the statute requirements for fraud, you will notice that their actions were very linear with committing fraud against the American people. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. And you know what's funny about it? What's interesting? Imagine voting for a politician for 30 plus years and still not having homelessness fixed and still not having cures for all of these different medical problems that Big Pharma just keeps pill milling out. Imagine having constant problems overseas. Yet we have military bases all over. Here, let me give you a lot of you don't know this. Hold on. How many military bases does America have outside of America? Okay, here we go. Approximately 750 military bases across more than 80 countries and territories worldwide. 750 military bases. That the military bases we have outside of the United States are larger than almost all countries that have a military. So, it's just, you got to sit back and you got to think to yourself, like, what happened? You know what I mean? And then people are like, no, we can't have term limits. We can't, because then we might not get Bernie back. I'm sorry, but like, what has Bernie really accomplished? I mean, he's got great ideas that move us towards everybody in America having coverage for something, healthcare for all. It's not a bad idea. You need healthy people to make money. It's not a bad idea, right? It's not a bad idea. Okay. What about this idea of essentially making sure everybody has a certain standard of living? Well, shit. Why would we be against that? Like, when you say it in its basic form, you're like, oh, wait a minute. The richest country on earth. Why would every American be gifted a birthright, winning the lottery to be born within the borders of America, a blood right, a country citizen genetic DNA right? Why wouldn't we want them to have a standard of living that at least is here instead of here? Well, capitalism wants you struggling and fearful of this. So if you're always afraid of this, you're going to work to keep yourself here. I guess the point I'm getting at with this is that, at the end of the day, politicians are not worried about you because they're going to screw you over. They have to. The billionaires that put them in the chairs, they have to. They don't have a choice. Term limits are the start. Publishing who funded their existence on the voting sheet, right? The top 50 donators, what company they represent, what money pit they come from, what family heirloom they come from. Publishing that may change voters. It is interesting that America will not allow poor people to become politicians. Now, look, I agree. You can't just let anybody be a politician because, they have to be educated to a certain point. Otherwise, they're not going to know macroeconomics, microeconomics, international trade, international travel. They're not going to understand laws, border restrictions, constitutional rights. They're not going to know it. But I don't think we've done an appropriate job picking people to lead this nation. I just don't think we've done it. So, all right, everybody, we're going to hit the next video soon. The next video is a pretty cool one. I'm going to kind of give you a quick little summation of what you need to know about it. So we just did this video, which answers essentially, hey, how far back can they go into your bank account to figure out what you've got, to examine if there might be a problem, or just do a review. With this said, we also covered fraud. We've also covered overpayments. All right, next one that's coming out is SSA emergency message release for work report modifications. They have a new emergency message that came out because they're focused on the form that asks people questions about what type of work they're doing. Because the SSA realized that if they want to go ahead and, get more people off of benefits and into the workforce, they have to modify this form to make it so that people will fill it out. And, it's got some more streamlined statements and things like that, which, you got to look at the legal side of it as to how easy a potential gotcha situation is. All right. So the next video is that. I will catch you all the next video, but please remember, Attorney Walter Hnot, to like and subscribe. Incredibly important. Please remember to like and subscribe. The super, super big donation of $100. Please, please, please thank her. That is absolutely amazing and giant. And that'll probably go towards buying gear for the future studio that people will be able to use when it comes to all this stuff. I'm on vacation right now, so it's just like a little mini thing I said. You can hear the AC in the back. With that said, also, I go live on Mondays and Thursdays to answer questions for free. We're doing it tonight. And then also, if you need a half an hour or a 1 hour private session with me, mini contract is below in the bio of the video. Finally, please remember to go to Disability. Oh, I don't have the thing behind me. Go to Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida on Google. Throw some stars up there if you like. It's up to you. And remember, and I never advertise this, I'm America's most viewed, subscribed to, and clicked on Disability Attorney. If you need disability representation before the Social Security Administration, you can hire me or somebody else. Totally open to it. We've got a lot of clients, but if you want to hire somebody else or me, totally open to it. I will catch you all at the next video. You have a wonderful night, and I'll be doing the next video in about 10 minutes. Rock and roll, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.